The content presented in this podcast and YouTube show is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the guidance of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding your health or a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard or seen on this show. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or emergency services immediately. The host, guests, and producers of this show are not responsible for any adverse effects resulting from your use of or reliance on any information presented.
Andrea, can you hear us?
Many years ago, I died for 26 seconds. There are so many people in this world that have experienced life events that have led to their soul purpose. Wake Up Your Soul with Andrea will bring you these significant life events that demonstrate how to use those moments for guidance and life purpose. These are our stories.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Wake Up Your Soul with Andrea Lynn. Today's guest is Jeremy Bishop. He is the founder of Influencer Club, and he's here to tell us today how he helps individuals become authority with their brand. Let's welcome Jeremy Bishop.
Hello. Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to getting into our conversation today.
Yeah, so I want to start with, obviously, you have become an authority in the space of marketing and branding people and helping them become authority with their brand. How did you get there?
Well, I started as an entrepreneur when I was about 19. I'm 31 now, and I got introduced to my first entrepreneurial journey at 19, and I had a bit of success. I had a lot of fun in the network marketing space, if anyone's familiar. And I built this really big affiliate network of like 5,000 people. And it's where I got my feet wet with entrepreneurship and speaking. And after a few years of a lot of hard work, I got a call and the company shut down basically overnight, this company that we were a part of. And so I looked back and I was like, man, if I could have done one thing more, I would have focused on building my name just as much as any product or service or company that I represent. And so it sort of led me on this mission down this path of what is a personal brand? How can I build my name to represent any project, company to build or be a part of in the future? And so that's sort of where everything got started in my early 20s.
Wow. What sparked all this for you, though? The entrepreneurship, like as a child, what sparked all that for you?
I don't think there's any super special story like how some people have the story of I was doing the lemonade stand when I was 5 years old or anything like that. I would say the biggest indicator that I was going to go be an entrepreneur was the fact that I really did not like being told what to do. And I've always done what I wanted to do. And when I found something that I loved, I dedicate 5, 10, 15 years to it. So I was a musician from very early ages, a drummer. So I dedicated time, 15 plus years to this one craft, becoming really, really, really good at it. And then did that professionally for a few years. And then at 19, ended up in entrepreneurship, network marketing. And so then I fell in love with business, entrepreneurship, branding, social, all of this stuff. And so, again, now here we are about 10 years later.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. So that brings me to a question. Do you think that people, because you're talking about how you became really, really good at drumming, do you think that people have to wait until they feel like they are the best of the best before they start doing all this marketing? Or do you say just go for it and let it all unfold?
Yeah, go for it and let it all unfold. Because when you talk about building your business, okay, whoever's listening, whatever stage you are in your business, whether it's the first day or you're 5, 10 years in, a lot of people forget that one of the most exciting parts for others to be involved with you is the journey,
Mhm.
okay, is the process. And so there's this big challenge that people have, what you just said, which is I'll wait until I become massively successful to then start showing who I am, what I do. And although I agree you should work on building your business, okay, create a proper foundation before you try and become a big brand, okay, you want to make sure you have something real to back up who you say you are when you decide to go out and promote yourself and build something. But I also believe wholeheartedly that yes, you have to share where you are, share the journey, and start getting your feet wet.
I feel like it makes a lot of sense too when you think about the fact that look at your journey, right? And you are where you are now and you're not where you were 10 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever it be. Well, I guess you're 31, so probably more like 10 years ago. But that's okay because what people see now, like people don't look back. I mean, some people might look back at your journey from 10 years ago, but for the most part, people are staying with you. So wherever you're at present day, and so they like you said, they grow with you. So even though 10 years ago it might have been a little bit of a hot mess express, like people were along for that ride, but then as you grew, they saw that and they were with you. And then the people that come on board 10 years later, they weren't even with you 10 years ago anyway. So yeah, I think people get too caught up in worrying about that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this journey of business, let alone the journey of branding or your podcast or anything that you're creating. If I could give myself advice 10 years ago, if I could talk to the younger me, which is usually a question on any given podcast, I would probably say exactly that. I would probably say you need to test more, try more things. But I mean, you can't get too caught up in the moment worrying about what people think of you today, because if you plan on growing and making a change, making an impact, you just focus on your trajectory, share it, and people are going to come along for the ride. And yeah, some people will look back and say, wow, holy shit, look at Jeremy, look at so and so, look at Gary Vaynerchuk. If you're a fan, go look at a guy like Gary Vaynerchuk 10, 20 years ago when he was just getting started putting out content, and you'll see these terrible videos of him, sipping wine, spitting it into a bucket. And now here he is, 10, 20 years later, running a massive media company, working with the biggest brands and companies in the entire world. Okay. So that's important. He leaves those videos there for people to see that journey, because it's not just from zero to success overnight. It really is not. You have to go through your own trials.
Okay, but question, is there a point where people should just give up? Do you ever think that some people at what point in time is it like, maybe this just isn't for you? Like, how long do you put in effort to a social media platform or just somebody of a massive brand visibility, people that want to be seen and want to do social media or be on TV and that sort of thing? Like, at what point do you say, like, hey, maybe this isn't for you?
Well, I think the right answer is you should never give up. Okay. If you want something to happen and you haven't gotten the result you're looking for yet, there are undoubtedly 1,000 different testing ways, different things that you have not done yet. Okay. So that's what I mean when I said I would tell my younger self to start testing different things, trying new ways, partnering with different people, trying different methods of brand awareness. And so what happens is people, they use social media, and let's say someone goes on a journey and they post every day for 1 year straight or 2 years straight. And they come at the end of that year and not much has changed.
Mhm.
They don't have much engagement. They really haven't had a ton of clients, all of these things that could possibly happen. And then they say, should I quit?
Mhm.
And they also say, I did everything I could.
Mhm.
Okay. Reality is that's absolute bullshit. In fact, Most of us stick to doing one thing that is very obviously not going to get you there. And we
Mhm.
do that one thing for way too long.
Mm.
Okay?
Okay, so this is more about a pivot then.
Absolutely. You have to work on the muscle that is being fluid and learning and testing and trying. And so when people ask for one solid game plan about how do I grow a world-class personal brand,
Mhm.
they don't get the answer that they want most of
Mhm.
the time. Okay. They wish that there was a formula, an exact formula. How many posts? What time do I do it? How do I take the photo, etc. Now, there's a great roadmap. There are great foundations, and you can find people that are great examples of what you should be doing and what not to do. Okay. Building a
Okay, so do you sell? Because I think a lot of people sell packages, programs, things where it's like, here's my blueprint, do this. But kind of what I hear you saying is everybody is a unique individual, especially when it comes to a marketing standpoint. So do you sell just a blueprint to everybody, or are you more taking people on a one-on-one basis so that they can have their own personal branding kit?
yeah, the second, our company takes on individuals like exceptional talent only. Okay. Exceptional entrepreneurs only. At this point in our business's career and trajectory and journey, we're at a point where we know that to create a level of brand awareness that is going to really have an impact and get them the rewards and the success that they're looking for, they really do need to have, or you, the listener, needs to have a great foundation in your business and in your real life if you wish to translate that to an incredible high level personal brand. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't go build a brand from scratch, even though you don't have a massive business or anything like that. That's just our positioning in regards to who we work with in our world. I hope that gives a little bit of an overview.
Yeah, that makes sense, and I think that would be the most ideal situation for somebody trying to grow, but what would you say to somebody that I mean, this is a lot of people, right? They're posting and they're posting and they're posting, and, like, their followers are not increasing. What would be a recommendation you would give them? Is there something that tends to help people bring in followers?
Yeah, there are lots of things that
Yeah.
tend to help people bring in followers, and posting is just one tiny, tiny little piece of the ecosystem.
Mm.
Okay. So, as an example, some people might ask themselves or ask you, why am I not getting enough comments? And have you ever heard the phrase, show me your calendar and I'll show you your outcome? So, there's this concept that show me your calendar, your schedule, and I'll show you your results. And
Okay.
so when someone says, I wish to have a bigger audience, I wish to have a bigger following,
Mm.
and then you ask them a simple question like, well, how many discovery phone calls are you having in your business with new people? How many messages, direct messages, emails, LinkedIn messages, Instagram, any platform? How many messages are you sending every single day to new people to build a relationship or make an impact or
Mhm.
make a new touch? Okay. How many podcasts are you doing every month? How
Right.
many speaking events have you booked in the past year?
Yeah.
But we can go on and on and on and on. Okay. My point is, there are so many parts to the branding ecosystem that could you imagine if we do this podcast and we exchange info and we exchange Instagram? Don't you think that we'll probably end up liking each other's posts from here on, maybe dropping a comment?
Mhm.
Okay. And so somebody says, "Well, how did you get so many people to come?" You say, "Well, I spent time with this person. I
Mhm.
I I gave my time, she gave her time. We built a connection, and
Mhm.
that is as simple as it is." Okay? So, social is just a correlation. You know how people say money will simply elevate who you already are?
Mhm.
Okay? That's the concept. If you give a lot of money to a bad person, they're just going to do the same thing at a higher level.
Mhm.
Okay? So social media is just a correlation of what you already do in real life. So if you are out there networking, if you are out there building your business and moving the needle forward, I promise you the social strategy will be a lot easier than you think when you have real life things happening, business, ideas, people, relationships, connections, podcasts, PR. And yes, of course, all of this can be done when you work with a team like ours. To your question about, do we just hand a blueprint? No, I do not hand a blueprint to everyone and say, here's the basic blueprint. We have a personalized strategy for every single person. But yes, of course, there are some really basic, simple keys like what we're talking about right now to
Yeah.
increasing everything in your business and your social, which is get out there, network, send messages, connect with people, do podcasts, find opportunity, and go after it instead of just posting every day and waiting for opportunity to fall in your lap.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of people, they post and they're like, nobody's liking it, nobody's seeing it, nobody's watching it. And it's like, well, do you think people just pick up their phone and they're like, oh, let me find so and so? They don't know you. They don't know who you are at all. You have to put yourself out there, like you're saying, in as many ways as possible, not just one platform. And so I agree. I think that's some great advice for people. I'm curious, can you tell us what makes someone a hard client to help? Like, what would make somebody hard to work with?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a great question. I don't think anybody's ever asked me that.
Thank you.
What makes someone hard to work with? Um, Very, very easy. I hope everyone hears this, okay? Because there are so many out there that think they are not the problem in a scenario where they're making an investment, they're looking for a team, they're looking for a great company to take care of them, okay? And they think everyone else is the problem, okay? Listen to me. If you, number one, are not willing and confident to make investments in yourself, in your business, in your name, in your brand, I promise you that is going to be the biggest first challenge that you will have. Okay. Getting over the fear of reinvestment, putting money on the table, and hiring great people. Okay. That's going to be the first biggest challenge that will make you a very difficult client for great people. Assuming everyone on this podcast listening wants to work with great people. Okay.
But let's say, but they're a client. So we're saying, like, what makes them real hard? If they're already a client, they've already given you the money, they've invested, they've been like, yeah, I can do this. But from there, like, what makes them hard to work with? Besides, I mean, I hear what you're saying.
Have you ever heard someone say, I'm going to pay for this, but this better work? I mean, it has to work. This better work. It has to work. You better do exactly what you say you're going to do. If it doesn't work, I'm going to die. Okay.
And for expectations, so what you're saying,
So
like, somebody that has expectations of it being done a certain way, and then you're doing it how you know to do it. You've been hired as the expert, and then here they are like, no, you got to do it this way. And they're mad.
what happens is, imagine you're going to hire a personal trainer and you walk in the door, and before the conversation even starts, you say to this personal trainer, I'm going to pay you, but you better make sure that I have a six pack in the next 60 days. Okay. Would you agree that's probably the wrong initial way to start that journey?
100%.
Okay. So it doesn't matter how much money you have. If you come into a relationship where you are working with somebody and you're going to be a client or vice versa, okay, if you're not willing to start that journey the right way, you are going to be a difficult client. Okay.
Mhm.
So that's number one. So I said willing to invest in yourself, because what I mean is there are people that put money on the table, but they keep their hand on it the entire time. They're not really invested. Okay. They invest and they say they are, but they come and they tell the personal trainer, you better give me a six pack. But yesterday they were eating terrible food, not exercise. They're not even in the state to receive or get. Okay. So over 10 years, we have grown from working with everyone to exceptional entrepreneurs only. Why is that? Why is that? Because if you want to be a great client, you have to work on yourself and become someone that people already look at and have validated. Those
Yeah.
are the people I want to work with. So a bad client is someone who's not willing to invest in themselves. A bad client is someone who is not coachable, not open-minded, wants to do it their way, but invested for you to take care of them. Okay. A bad client is someone who says, all of these things you're doing for me are not important in my mind, right? Versus trusting in the people that you invest in and the people that you hire. The same way that if you have a company and you have a team of people, you have to allow them to do great work.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get great work by overseeing every second of every day and telling them that it's garbage. No, you do great work by showing them what you would love to happen at the end, trusting in them, creating a process, and trusting the process as well.
Well, and you're here to market the product and they are the product, right? And if they
Correct.
come to you and they aren't a polished product yet, you can't do that for them too, right? Is what I
I
hear.
could try.
Yeah.
Certainly can try. And I've tried many, many, many times in the past. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's funny. So what would you say people could do to stand out more on social media? Is there something that you would say helps people really stand out besides obviously like we were talking about, like put yourself everywhere and all that, but is there something about yourself? Is there something unique that people can do to make themselves more of a standout person?
I think that the foundation of a great personal brand is starting to balance your content. So take a moment and sort of sit down, whether it's a piece of paper, you have a chart, a discovery chart, a layout, and sort of just put some bubbles. And I love helping people do this. It's so simple. This is so basic, like ABCs. Who are you? What are different facets of your life on a professional level, personal level, hobbies, lifestyle? Do you travel? Are you a musician? Are you an athlete? Are you an artist? Are you a father, mother, husband? What? All of these things that most of us overlook. And we say, I thought people only wanted to hear about my business. And the answer is no.
Yeah.
We don't just want to hear about your business. In fact, I don't want to hear anything about your business until I hear about you first, right?
Yeah.
So people don't care about what you know and what you're capable of until they know that you care. Okay. That's the oldest phrase in the book. And what it means is simple. What you can start to do, I can't give you any specifics on how to angle the camera to make you look better and, what caption you should write. That's got to come from the heart. Okay. A lot of this has to come from just trial and error. Again, like I said, testing, having fun with it, not worrying, and getting out there. But what I can tell you is a balanced brand is you sharing more of you, okay, in a balanced setting. You with friends and family, you with business partners, colleagues, clients, your lifestyle, your hobbies, social platforms, especially Instagram, are really meant for that. Okay. And so if you can just really portray and start to show an authentic you, and then start adding in the resume, and then start adding in who you are, what you do, what your business is about, how you can help people. Because yes, people do want to know and they need to know how you can help them. But people
Yeah.
really want to know who you are.
Yeah, I remember this was a few weeks back, but you took a quick look at my Instagram and you're like, well, first thing I got to tell you is I don't even know who you are in all this because I post a lot of clips from my show. And so it's mostly my guests. I'm trying to highlight their stories. It's not about me, it's about their story to me. But I also understand that people have to enjoy me as the host. And so I totally get that. So I am doing a little bit better now. I think I'm sharing a little bit more about personal insights into my life. But next question is, what is the most outrageous thing that you've ever done to leverage yourself as a person of authority?
The most outrageous thing?
Yeah. There's gotta be something. I feel like everybody at some point is like, they just want to go for it and they're like, let me just do this. This seems crazy, but I think it's gonna work.
Yeah, I think I don't have anything outrageous in the definition of crazy and ridiculous. Maybe that would be my definition. But I can tell you the day that my wife Stephanie looked at me and she was like, "We help all of these other clients grow their brand, and we've helped them grow some of them to 100,000 plus followers, and we've done all these amazing things for them." And she said, we need to grow you to 1 million plus and have you truly become a superstar as well.
And you're there, million, you're at a
Sure.
million.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Now, yep. And that was an outrageous thought because I was stuck in that same world that a lot of people, if you have clients, if you have a business that serves others, I know you'll hear this all the time, this thought of, well, I'm just here to help everyone else. I don't need to, have my face on anything. I'm just here to serve everyone else. And what I didn't realize was being outrageous in my goal, being outrageous in what I think I deserve as a brand or as recognition, going to that 1 million mark, doing 50 to 100 podcast interviews, building this massive brand was exactly the recognition that I needed to help my members, my clients think even bigger for themselves. So it ended up growing my confidence. It ended up growing all of the people in our ecosystem and all of the clients to come. And immediately they started to think 10 times bigger than they already had dreamed that their brand could go. So I don't think it's any coincidence that when you, the leader of your kind of your own world, your own business, when you decide to think bigger for yourself, allow it, be outrageous, okay, whatever that looks like, okay. And again, that could just be being outrageous by getting on social media more right now, okay? You're posting more. But you need to be outrageous with your goals and everything will follow and come along with it. Absolutely.
So you brought up your wife, and that brings up something I wanted to talk about if you're okay with it, but just let me know if we can't. Um, but you had on a phone call, you had mentioned that how you ended up doing your own company and transitioning because you used to be in a partnership and that had to dissolve. And you mentioned what she had said to you and why you ended up dissolving the partnership. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, we can talk a little bit about that. Absolutely.
Okay.
The first thing I'll say is that when you have a strong person in your life, they can give you a set of eyes that otherwise you might not have the ability to see through. Okay. In this case, if you're running a business or if you're kind of in the everyday process, you're focused on getting your numbers right, you're getting your revenue, you're taking care of a team, whatever that looks like for you, it's very difficult to take a step back sometimes. Okay. So when this person, now my wife, when Stephanie came into my life, she started to help me systemize and see things as someone who was, a step back. Right. And it became this sort of guidance and trajectory. And I was in a previous business partnership, and she started to help me recognize some things that I already knew that I didn't want to be a part of or, handle certain ways in business, client treatment, things like that. And so she helped me see a lot of really, really important things. And that ended up leading to, walking away from probably what would have been my best financial year at the time ever. Okay. And so I was in a great position doing all these things. But yeah, the person I was working with at that time, some of the morals and ethics and client treatment sort of just went out the window. And so it was a big pivot and a big decision to go and start my own business. And
I think it says a lot about your character, though. So, what I'm talking about for people listening is Jeremy told me that his wife basically came to him and said, I'm leaving you if you don't leave him, if you don't leave the partner. And so then Jeremy chose to leave the partner so that he could obviously keep his girlfriend and now wife. But I think also Jeremy was seeing that she was right. And it wasn't worth staying in a situation where you were compromising your morals. Is that fair? Fair explanation?
yeah, she was right long before the statement of like, hey, it's either you leave that company or, I walk away. It was already so clear. There was no conversation, right? I mean, it was that black and white. And again, when no one is there to test you in life, if no one's there to test you against your own actions, that can be really scary because I'm sure you've seen a lot of horror stories of people just kind of spiraling, going down a dark path. especially in business, it's very easy to just kind of lose a sense of reality as to what you're doing and, how you're treating people and, all of these things. And so, yeah, it was a pivotal moment and she said that to me. But again, it was probably the easiest decision I've ever made.
Yeah.
No hard feelings to
Yeah.
the old partner and all that
Yeah.
good stuff. But yeah, I mean, it was very obvious, right? It was like, I can't explain it any easier than to say, if someone is, making bad decisions, creating a bad environment, people are being negatively impacted. It's just that simple. Now, if I hadn't had that person around me, or if anybody listening can think of a scenario where someone could be there to test your morals or your judgment, I don't know, but I'm very happy that I, had somebody there.
Yeah, it brings up a really good point, though, in that people should have somebody in their life that they can confide in and kind of keep them on track with their business, right? And be like, hey, I don't know if you should be doing that interview. Like, I think that's going to mess with your brand. I think it's great to have that person that kind of keeps you in check because, yes, not everybody has a significant other. So even if it's a close friend, I think it's important that people have somebody that they're kind of consulting with, even if it's somebody that they hire, like you, or just a best friend. And I know some people want to not share anything, they want to keep everything to themselves. You never know who's going to steal something or whatever. But
Yeah.
I guess for me, though, at the end of the day, I just trust that, like, I am morally doing things right. And I'm always going to land on the high ground no matter what, because I believe in the divine power of that. And if I'm just always working with a good conscience, then nothing bad is going to come my way that would be so detrimental to just throw me off my platform.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe it will, but you should have a board of directors. That's what I call it, my board of directors, right? So people in your life that you can call, and they should be strategically different, each of these people on your board of directors. So in my life, I had some very close friends that are extremely brilliant in different ways. I had my grandfather as a mentor, as I mentioned to you, my entire life. My wife, of course, different family members, that you'd call for different advice, right? So there's a time to check yourself, like my wife did at that time. Check yourself and check your morals, check what you're doing. There's also a time to call the other friend that says, don't think about what anyone is going to say. Go for it. Do it, even if you hurt some people's feelings. So I want to be very clear. It's not just about walking on eggshells your whole life and not accidentally hurting someone's feelings. Just because I left that past partnership or I quit a company, etc., doesn't mean that, that person can't still go on and bulldoze forward and create massive success and impact. Absolutely. You just have to figure out sort of when it's the right time, what war you want to fight, right? So choose your battles.
Were there repercussions from you leaving?
No, the repercussion was you are in a position where now you've gotten away from the thing that you said you didn't want to be a part of. And a lot of people get caught up when they're in that moment. I'm going to quit. I'm going to go start my own business. I really recommend to think about that. Take some time to think about that before you make that big decision, because that first month of the classic, I'm going to start my own business or I'm going to break out and do it, a lot of the times that's not very well planned. Okay. For some people, it's more of an emotional decision than it is logical or strategical. For me, of course, I had built relationships with all of these different clients. And from that partnership, I had a lot of people that gave some really positive feedback and said, absolutely, you are making a great decision. I'll go with you if you want, et cetera. And so you can kind of test and see, am I at a place where am I crazy? Does this make sense? And when you call the first person, a client who's maybe been with you for 5 years, and you ask that question and they say, I can't believe you haven't already, right? I can't believe you didn't leave already, right? So you can get some validation. You can find whether that's real or not, whether you should or not. But the repercussions are when you make a decision to go out on your own or quit that position or partner with a certain type of person, okay? When you make that big decision, you have to own it. And just remember, the hard part is comes after the decision. The hard part was the next day sitting there going, okay, time to start a new company, time to create an LLC, time to invest money, time to build an entire business, time to work as if I just started 2, 3, 4 years ago, right? So for somebody like myself, as I told you, I don't like to be told what to do. So that's just a blast for me to start a new company with my wife and built this whole thing. And here we are 6 years later. But for some, it sounds a lot more exciting. And then the reality hits, oh man, I got a lot of work to do. And so just be prepared. Be
Yeah.
prepared to own it.
So now can you share with people what you've done? What are your big successes for clients? You've helped them, go ahead and share, like you've helped them become Netflix stars and different things. So go ahead and share what your top accomplishments are for clients.
Yeah, sure. I think we're really proud of the hundreds and hundreds of individuals that we have helped become confident in their brand, confident in their message. All of our members go through what's called the 100K Club. So they all grow to 100,000 plus followers. We have some members on the way to their first million as well, the 1 million membership. And there are so many stories, but I'll just pick one or two. I think about one of my guys, Jeffrey, 2, 3 years ago. We get on the phone. He's transitioning into real estate later in his career. He doesn't really have a big social media presence whatsoever, doesn't have a big following, but he's in New York and he's dealing with clients and a competitive market handling $1 to $10 million properties. Okay. And he wants to do big business. He had zero social media, zero personal brand. And we've gone through this journey over 18 plus months. And he's now done 50 to 100 podcast interviews, starting from the basic podcasts with hardly any listeners, all the way up to doing the Breakfast Club. Yeah, he's gone from zero social media to 100, 200,000 followers, built an incredible brand for himself. His content's elevated. His relationships have been elevated. Now he's just starting the second season. They're about to launch the second season of Owning Manhattan, Ryan Serhan's real estate Netflix show. And 2 or 3 of our members were guest stars on this show. I don't think it's any coincidence that they built a really strong brand before and during that process. So yeah, that's just one story. But if you're out there listening, my point to the story is 2, 3 years ago, some of these people that you might think, oh my gosh, of course they're superstars. You know, they were meant for this. Everything just falls into their lap. And I promise you 2, 3 years ago, they were asking me, how do I take a better selfie photo? How do I grow a few more followers? How do I do any podcast, let alone the top? How do I do any media, let alone Netflix? So, you know, where you are currently, a lot can change in a pretty short amount of time, but you have to, back to the very beginning of this call, you have to be willing and knowing that going fast is what's going to get you there. Okay. Going all in, not being scared of what other people are going to think, not being scared of investing and spending money on your business and trying and testing ideas and take every podcast interview that comes your way. Don't be picky. Okay. Most of us listening, myself included, do not deserve to be picky. Okay. I will take every opportunity to get my message, my name out there, have a conversation with somebody. As long as I feel a great connection, I'm going to do it. So I really think that slow and steady does not win this race. I'll put it.
I have to make a point here. So I've heard so many times from people speaking when you're saying don't be picky. I've heard so many times from people say some of their largest deals that they closed were their smallest audiences, like an audience of 12. But you might have just that one person in the room that's willing to drop 100 grand on your services or whatever it be, right? So don't be picky because you never know when you're exactly where you need to be, which I think you're always exactly where you need to be. But I want to
That's the
wrap
best.
this. Yeah, I want to wrap this up with you sharing the best tip that you feel like you've ever gotten from your grandfather, since he was a mentor and he's a family member. And, you know, I feel like family usually gives the best advice because there's nothing holding them back from being 100% truthful with you. There's no
That's
keeping.
that's really difficult for me to think of one perfect best piece of advice that he's ever given me. Again, if you have people in your life, especially the older generation that's been through I promise you, there is so much conversation. And we would sit at dinner every single night for years, and we would talk about the same exact principles every single night, okay? So some of these conversations that you'll have, you don't need to just hear it one time. You need to hear it 500 times so you get it instilled, okay? Whether that's your own confidence saying, yes, I am worthy, I deserve to have a you have to do that hundreds of times. But the one
Well,
piece of advice, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, the reason too is because the message will hit differently depending on where you are, right? And every day we go through different things. So you could hear that same message 1,000 times, but depending on where you are in that day, you're going to have a different perception of that message. So it will never get old. Sorry, carry on.
Well, no, I agree. I'll give you two pieces of advice. One, a quick story. When I just started to bring in some revenue and earn some decent money, my grandfather was an accountant. Okay. So he took care of my taxes. All right. That was a love-hate relation that we had there. Okay. I didn't want to pay him, and he was as strict as you could get. Okay. When I started to make some real money, I went over, I sat down with him. I was so excited. I was like, look, I just made X amount of money this week. And he said, that's great. He let me get all the excitement out. He said, okay, great. So I'm going to need about half of that for taxes. And I got so upset. I started kind of freaking out. I was trying to I was like, there's got to be a way to get around this. We've got to think of something. This can't be true. And he just sat there and he waited until I finished. And he said, are you done bitching? Are you done complaining? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, as you grow your business, as you grow as an individual, this is part of the deal. And he's like, and we're going to be proud to take care of it. Okay. So it comes along with the growth and the success is paying your dues, right? And so that taught me investing in people, investing in the business, spending money, putting real commitment on the table. That's part of the growth. That's part of success. And the second thing he taught me that I'll never forget is he said, you don't need to always try and own the company in order to have massive success. So for all of the listeners out there that maybe you're a partner or an employee or a salesperson and you're in a part of your journey, just remember, you don't always have to go out and own your own thing and be your own boss in order to earn an incredible amount of money, a great living, build massive success, build a great skill set. And I hope that helps for anybody out there listening.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Can you share with everybody where they can find you if they want to reach out to you?
Yeah, hopefully we'll just put one of the links in here for influencerclubmedia.com. There's also a client success story page that we have with tons and tons of examples of some of the people that we were talking about through the show today. And so I would love for anybody listening, take a look at some of these examples, watch some of these videos, because it's really remarkable. Because I'm telling you, every person you see there 1-2 years ago was struggling, challenged, figuring out how to do anything in regards to their brand. And now you'll see a ton of these incredible success stories. And I hope it sparks some inspiration. And of course, you can always book a call with our team, speak with one of our guys. Let's see if maybe there's some puzzle pieces to put together there as well.
Thank you so much for coming on today. I think you've shared some very valuable tips. And for everybody listening, if you like this episode, make sure you like and subscribe.